Hello and welcome to another episode of Wheels Boy Lockdown Chat, the show where we spend our time locked down here in Shanghai, China, discussing topics related to the Chinese car industry. My guests for today's show, as they so often are Mr. Elliot Richards, who you will know from the Fully Charged show, as well as his own channel, China Driver. Welcome, Elliot.
Hello again.
Hello again. And then Mr. Mark Andrews, veteran automotive journalist here in China. He writes for publications including Autocar in the UK. You can see a lot of what he's written, a lot of his great articles by going to his website, which you can see underneath his little box there. Welcome, Mark.
Good to be back.
Good to have you. So today's topic, last time we did a video, which I think we enjoyed and our fans enjoyed, where we did a little debate about what was the best mini electric car here in China. So basically the cheapest electric cars you can get, kind of the cheapest cars you can get as far as I'm aware. Instead, for this video, we're going to the complete opposite end of the spectrum. We are going to be discussing what is the top or our pick for the best luxury EV SUV here in China. So the biggest, the most expensive electric SUVs that you can get. So first, we're going to start by introducing our three contestants. Mark, why don't you begin? I'm sorry, rather, Elliot. We're flipping it this time. I got myself confused. Last time I started. This time, Elliot is going to start. Elliot, what have you brought for the contest?
I've bought the big daddy of all EV SUVs. I think one of the very first proper luxury EVs. It's obviously the NIO ES8 and really was the start of so far a very successful kind of a list of models that the company have brought out. And it's one of the first EVs that I drove and was just blown away by. So yeah, I've got the NIO ES8.
Okay, thank you very much. So I should mention that a lot of these photos, especially the photos of the ES8 and the Hongqi E-HS9, spoiler alert, that's my contestant, were taken by our own Mark Andrews. Thank you very much, Mark, for providing these very nice photos. And speaking of Mark, why don't you tell us about your contestant?
Well, mine is the HiPhi X. And this is really quite a car. And currently is one of the best sellers in China of all cars priced around about 500,000 or more. It sells more than often the Porsche Taycan.
This is true. The numbers do not lie. The HiPhi X, and I think Mark is the only one among us who has driven all of the contestants for today. I know there's the EHS9. I'll talk about that in a moment. I myself have driven the EHS9 and the HiPhi X. I've never driven the ES8, but I've driven an EC6, which there's not that much of a difference as far as I know. And then Elliot, of course, has driven the ES8 and the HiPhi X, but not the EHS9. So he's going to have to take my word for how fantastic it is. And Mark's, of course, because I'm sure he'll back me up. But again, there is my contestant, the Hongqi, not Neo, the Hongqi E-HS9. I mean, look at it. Need I say more?
I'd rather not.
Yes, I'm excited for the next thing we're going to be talking about, which is the first category by which we'll be judging these vehicles. There are going to be 5 categories, just as there was with the mini electric car. The exterior styling, interior styling, performance, range, and value. So I'm very excited to get to our first category of value. But what was that, Elliot? Did you say you wanted a wrist check? Okay, thank you. Elliot requested that we get, so first, many people know that I am actively trying to turn the Wheels Boy channel into a half watch, half car channel. So I will listen to Elliot's request for this. I'm wearing a Seiko SKX009 on a nice Uncle Seiko blue waffle strap. Very nice piece. Anybody wearing anything?
Elliot has left the chat.
Elliot has, okay, well, Mark.
I'm wearing clothes.
Mark's wearing clothes? All right. Well, guys, better luck next time. I guess I'm the winner of the watch category for today's video. But let's continue to our first category, which is exterior styling. So for exterior styling and interior styling, there will be a vote. We are going to go, it is subjective, of course. You cannot vote for your own choice. You must vote for one of the other two choices. Elliot, why don't you start us off by telling us why you think the design of the ES8 is worthy of the win?
So just take it back to 2018. I think this was released. This was, a brand new brand. No one had seen or heard of NIO, outside of kind of automotive circles. And this was their first full-on, EV. And it was very striking looking. And I do think it looks quite good, although I do think this ES8 is slightly aging now. I think it needs a bit of a refresh, given like the direction they're going in. But it's a very striking design. It's big on the road. It's got a lot of presence, and it really showed kind of the design direction that NIO wanted to go in. I still like this car. Still like the design of it. Don't know if it hides its lump very well, as in its size, its mass. But it's a very calm and thought out design, which was quite unusual for a new Chinese brand to be kind of quite muted in design. So I really still quite like this.
Yeah, I have to say I do like the way that the NIO models look. I think that when they debuted, they definitely had a little bit more pizzazz, and so we've now moved on a little bit. But I will say that the and honestly, among these three contestants, it's kind of hard to stand out. We're bringing some pretty bold designs here, so I'm afraid the ES8 is. I would say it's probably the most traditional looking. Is that fair? I mean, it's the least aggressively styled. How about that?
It's the most subtle.
Okay, that's a very flattering way to put it. Speaking of designs, Mark, why don't you tell us about the HiPhi X?
Okay, first of all, I'm going to talk about why it is different to both the NIO and the Hongqi. The NIO and the Hongqi both could really be ICE cars. There's nothing about them that necessarily says EV. The dimensions particularly. With the HiPhi X, it's very much an EV. You couldn't make a fuel car in that way. They describe it as a shooting cross. Now, when they launched it, it was actually called originally, the design they first showed, it was called the HiPhi 1 at that point, and then became the HiPhi X when it reached production. So I had a word with the designer, James Shear, and this is obviously, I think, a lot of PR talk, but they were claiming that there are 69 styles of design when it comes to car.
Nice.
And that they were creating a 70th. And they were, as I said, claiming it was called a shooting cross. Now, what a lot of people say is that the HiPhi X basically looks the same as the Faraday Future FF91. Yeah, it does to some extent, but I think that's because it's created a new style for EVs for an SUV style EV. So I don't think it's any different to say having a Ford Mondeo versus a what they called what's the Vauxhall Opel car called? That's the equivalent.
Vectra.
No, the Vectra is the old one. What's
Cavalier.
the new one?
Oh,
Cavalier.
No,
Insignia?
that's even older.
Insignia?
Insignia, I think, isn't it? Yeah. So it's basically like saying both of them are sedan shapes. So they're actually, one is the copy of another. Well, I don't think that's really the case. So I would say the HiPhi X is really something quite unique when it comes to its looks.
Do you think it's an SUV or an MPV? Because I think it looks more like an MPV.
Thank you, Elliot.
That's a good question, but I would say it's more SUV than MPV. But as I said, I think it is really a kind of unique style. So, as they say, a shooting cross.
And I will give credit where credit is due. Let's get the rear view there. You guys can see. I mean, it's got the wild. Let's go back to the front really quick. It's got the wild matrix LED headlights, or not headlights, but really kind of lower light display there that can, as you saw in our video review, it can project images on the ground in front of it. It can display a pedestrian walking, as it can also do in the and display things in the rear. One thing you told me, Mark, which I didn't realize when I test drove the car, or I would have included in the video, was that it can indicate a U-turn if you
that's correct. Yes.
if you hit the turn signal 3 times.
I think it's twice, but I can't remember exactly.
Yeah, 3 times wouldn't make any sense.
You hit it in some way, and then it will signal a U-turn on its indicator lights. Yeah, which is quite a cool trick.
Right.
One thing you should notice though about the design is the A pillar is actually very far forward compared with a lot of conventional designs.
Which makes it hard as hell to drive, for the record. I mean, I
don't think it does.
I felt like if I remember from my review, I was saying that I could not tell. I couldn't tell where the corners were. If it made me, I'm sure I could get used to it, but for the 4 or 5 days or whatever that I had it, I felt like the corners they're definitely closer to you, which in theory makes it easier to negotiate things once you figure out where they are. But I just felt like it was a little harder to see. I don't know.
For me, when driving the cars, I found both the EHS9 and the ES8 huge. Obviously, they're all of a similar bulk, but driving the HiPhi X, you just don't feel that bulk of the other two that I felt anyway. Certainly,
I think
the four-wheel steering helps.
Exactly. Parking and everything in this one is the easiest.
Oh yeah. We'll talk. We can touch on the driving stuff and performance category, but I will support both of what you guys are saying, which is that it definitely hides its mass. And again, when we'll get to performance, we'll talk about rear wheel steer, which is available in some of these. But also, Mark, I mean, come on, what's the main thing about the HiPhi X? Those absolutely buck wild doors. I mean,
oh right, okay, yeah.
There's a reason, as you can see, there's a reason that there's a reason.
The NT doors. The NT doors. So,
NT.
That's what they call them. NT doors.
Which
and so
not traditional.
I have no idea what it stands for. Well, it obviously stands for something, I'm sure. But so it's basically a dual opening door for the rear passengers. And yeah, I mean, obviously it's a gimmick to some extent, but it's also a very cool feature as well.
It is. I mean, I will tell you that there is no car that we have ever filmed that got as much attention as this one. Doors open or doors closed. I think I'm giving away where my vote is going to land here, but there is no vehicle. I mean, when I never got tired, and I don't know that I would get tired as an owner of this car, parking it. And then when people were just walking by, just like when I finally figured out the insanely annoying fob, which I think all of us who've driven it absolutely found I think Elliot and I talked at length about how much we hated the fob. And I told people from HiPhi, for the record, I met with somebody when I was returning the car and they go, "What did you think about it?" And I was like, "Here's what I thought. The thing I want to say is, can you never use this fob again?" Apparently people use the app a lot, but the point is you can use the fob and just pop them all open at once. And it is quite the show, And in this picture, it doesn't actually accurately reflect it because you can even open the rear. It opens the trunk as well, or the boot. And so it's pretty amazing. But I must do my best to represent my choice, and I am very happy to do so. And that is the one, the only Hongqi E-HS9. Now, the E-HS9. Listen, subtlety. You use the phrase subtlety, Elliot, and I just want to say not everybody wants subtlety when it comes to design. Some people want to be hit in the face with a hammer, and the EHS9 is a hammer. It smacks you straight in the face with its bold, some would say fantastic road presence. You're not going to be able to look away if you see this thing coming down the road. Not the least reason is that red streak down the middle of the grille, well, that lights up. Of course, representing the red flag motif, which is what Hongqi means in English. It is not a subtle vehicle by any means, but again, I think that those bold people among us, all right, if you'll let me have a beer commercial for a moment here, the bold among us choose bold flavors, and bold flavors like the Hongqi E-HS9. However, I will also say that it manages, and I'm being no joke here, I really love the profile of this car. If you look at the side of it, it manages a level of elegance that does not make any sense for such a huge, monstrous vehicle. It's 5.2. I double-checked. It is the largest of the 3 contestants. larger than Mark's by I think 1 centimeter, but you have a longer wheelbase. But it manages to have a level of elegance that I found genuinely impressive. The thing, I love the chrome trim. This is very American of me, but the chrome trim that runs along the top of the greenhouse, and then when it swoops and goes up that C pillar there, it's like something you'd see on like a power boat or a yacht or something like that. It's super cool. It's super kind of classic. I really do love the way this car looks, all the way to the rear end, which I think does a great job. I love the way that the taillights kind of go deeply into the rear quarter panel there. I think they're awesome, especially when they're lit up. I should have a photo of that. But, I could wax nostalgic about my love for the EHS9's design all day long, but it's time for us to have a vote on our first category. We will start with Elliot because he was the first contestant. Elliot, of the HiPhi X and the EHS9, where's your vote going to go?
I mean, this is pretty obvious, isn't it? It's got to be the HiPhi X. I just want to say one thing about the Hongqi.
I'll go back.
Someone like BMW has done that car a great favor. Like the BMW 5 Series, you said, subtlety. Compared to the 7 Series,
yeah,
that is very subtle compared to the new 7 Series.
Yeah.
So this actually is starting to look much, much better. But my vote is going for the HiPhi X.
A friend of mine who is a person of great means, who is someone who would very much be in the market for a 7 Series, who currently drives a 5 Series, sent me the photos of the 7 Series, the new one, and was like, "Is this a joke?" And and I thought it was some sort of like a meme, one of those memes joking about how BMW girls get too big, but whatever. Pot kettle black. I'm standing here defending the EHS9. So next, let's talk about Mark. What is your vote for this category, the EHS9 or the ES8?
Oh, good question. I like both of them to an extent. I think probably though, my vote probably has to go with the ES8.
Yes.
I heard E and I got so excited. No. Don't choose subtlety, Mark. Don't choose subtlety. Well, all right. Well, the vote's cast. I'm going to go with the HiPhi. I think so. The HiPhi is going to win this category because I really do think that it's, especially in that orange color.
It looks good.
It's awesome. It's super cool. It's just very unique. It's very unique. And then there's the doors and stuff. So HiPhi wins in the exterior styling category, which brings us to our second category, interior styling. Again, this is a subjective category. We will each be able to vote, but you can't vote for your own car. Now, let's start with Elliot. Tell us about the ES8's interior.
I mean, design is so subjective, right? But I think...
Not a strong start.
No, but, I do like how they've done this. This matches the exterior, right? It's a very calm, very kind of well thought out interior with good materials. It's very luxury, got the massage seats. It's got reclining chair. It's got something, that everyone kind of wants in a luxury car. It doesn't go beyond. I mean, the one thing it does have is normie. Everyone loves normie sometimes.
Yeah, everybody.
It's got two very good quality screens. All of the buttons, the touch and the feel, everything is very good quality. The materials they use are pretty unique. The microfiber cloth and the ET7, they've got the Karoon material. So I think this is it might not be the...
I know, we're on the ES8.
Yeah.
Don't be bringing in other Neos. Don't be bringing in the newer Neos.
All right, this has got microfiber cloth then. But I think that... I've lost my train of thought now. It's a good interior, okay? It's not going to blow anyone away. It doesn't go over the top with extra screens or anything like that. It's just a well thought out, good quality, a luxury interior.
I will that I won't comment. I'll save my thoughts for later on. Mark, tell us about the HiPhi X, and there's a lot to talk about.
Yeah. Okay. Obviously, you got an asymmetrical dash there. So in fact, like the NIO, the passenger does not have a glove box. So, but with the HiPhi X, it's an asymmetrical dash, which I'm not I'm not sure if the NIO has an asymmetrical dash or not.
Doesn't seem like it. I don't remember
I think
that.
so.
There's a 6-seater and a 4-seater version of the HiPhi X. Obviously, with the front, you've got a lot of screenage there.
Really?
So you've got 3 screens, and that pretty much covers the whole dashboard. You've got very good materials. You've got Alcantara pretty much everywhere, leather. In the second row, you have what they call commander seats, and those are very comfortable. The third row is a little bit of a disappointment, I would say, compared with the rest of the car, and is actually a little bit of a weak spot when it comes to the HiPhi X. There's a lot of space in the third row, but I don't think it's particularly easy to get into the third row. And also, it's kind of claustrophobic when you're in the third row because there are no side windows. Although, having said that, there is glass above you, and I'm guessing that generally the kind of people who are going to be sitting in there are probably kids who are most likely going to be playing on their phones or whatever on devices. So the lack of side windows may not bother them too much. And it is comfortable when you are in the third seat, but as I said, it's claustrophobic due to not having the windows. One really cool thing with the HiPhi X, I'm not really sure you could actually call this an interior feature or not, but to open the hatch at the back, it projects a luggage icon on the floor, which you then step on, and it will then open so that you can load your luggage into the boot stroke trunk.
I gotta say that didn't work very consistently for me when I had the car.
True, but it's a nice feature.
It's
anyway.
a cool thought.
Yeah,
the HiPhi has a lot of stuff that's like that's a very cool thought, and then I used it and I was like, it works. It doesn't work as badly as I thought it would work, but that was one where I was like, this is in the circumstances in which you would want to be using that, which is assuming that you have something heavy in your arms, you want it to work every single time, and it wasn't for me. But please continue, Mark, if you have anything.
I think that's pretty much all I do have to say about the interior, actually. I mean, obviously the materials are very good.
Okay, so I'm going to go to something now which is a completely different flavor from my two competitors. Now,
can I turn off my screen?
I need sunglasses.
You'd miss out. You'd miss out on the amazingness that is the EHS9.
A strawberry explosion.
A burgundy explosion. A 1980s Cadillac
dropped red wine everywhere.
It's like I love it. I talked about it in my video. I do like it. It's very traditional. So basically, a lot of modern cars in this category, well, certainly every car in this category, the ES8, the HiPhi X, they all kind of have like a clean, technical feel to them.
Modern.
Very modern. Not everybody's into subtlety. Not everybody's into modernity. Sometimes we only like a touch of it. But troglodytes like myself, Philistines, we like to have a little bit touch of tradition, which is what you get with the EHS9. That means that you have that awesome wood there in between the seats there that you can see in the center console. Very nice to touch. It looks like it comes straight off the deck of a yacht. Classy. The burgundy color palette is yes, I think I said in my video that it looks like it comes straight out of a 1980s Cadillac, but not a knock against it. You do, however, get that modernity though, because you get three 16.2-inch screens, as you can see, arrayed across that central dashboard. The UI, and also I think that's a 9 or 10-inch screen down there in front of the transmission lever that is used to control features like the air conditioning and the seats and stuff. Speaking of that, you do have a traditional shift lever. Not everybody wants a little nubbin like with your NIO. And what is the HiPhi? Does the HiPhi does it have a shifter? I've forgotten. Let's go back and look. I've completely forgotten. The HiPhi has the column shift, much like a Tesla or an Xpeng. So I do think that I will say that the EHS9's interior, there is a buyer for it. because not all of them want to step into some sort of iPhone universe. Some of them want to step into something that really feels like a little bit more of old school luxury. And I think that the EHS9 manages to strike a balance between the two. But of course, this is a subjective category, and we must have a vote. So, Elliot, why don't you start? Are you going to vote for the HiPhi X or the EHS9? Again, an obvious choice.
I mean, can I make one comment about the EHS9?
I'll go back to it.
It looks like a American country club in the 1980s with 3 TV screens showing like horse racing or low-grade pornography. So for that, I'm going for the HiPhi X, not your country club interior.
Is that the only reason?
Well, I mean, look at it. It's horrific.
No, I mean, is that the only reason you're going to vote for the HiPhi X?
Yeah, because the HiPhi X, I mean, it's like the Neo, really. There's not much to it. But, I mean, this is horrific. Sorry, Ethan.
The thing is, Elliot, and this says a lot about me, that description has only made me want to buy an EHS9 even more. Because it does feel like it would be filled with cigarette smoke, the haze of cigarette smoke, you know. I love it. So that is Elliot's vote. He went for the HiPhi X. How about you, Mark? What are you going to vote for?
Right. The EHS9, the materials are terrible.
Granted, they are not.
The materials
as good.
are really not good quality at all. I would actually say with the ES8, I mean, the ES8 has got much better quality materials than the Hongqi. However, the NIO ES8 does not have as good quality materials as the new ET7. The ET7 is so much a step up. I'm not saying the materials are bad in the ES8, but you really see the difference. At one point, when I was doing the review of the ET7, to do my photography, I actually went in an ES8 to do car-to-car pictures. And I was sitting in this ES8, having just been in the ET7, and like, whoa, there is a real downgrade from going out of the ET7 into an ES8. You can really notice that the materials are not that as good.
Did both have the Napa leather, do you think?
I think they did, yeah, from what I remember. I mean, certainly the ET7 did, and I think the ES8 I was in did, but I'm not absolutely sure.
Yeah, because something you've pointed out previous... Oh, I'm sorry. You want to go ahead and finish your vote, sorry.
Yeah, I mean, I think, to be honest, if the ES8 had the materials that the ET7 had, my vote would go for the Neo. However, for the risk of it sounding like a parvenu, I think I'm going to vote for the EHS9.
I've lost a lot of respect for you today, Mark.
I think it's just so different. And they've got a lot of balls, basically, designing that.
The EHS9, for a man who needs, or a person who needs 5.2 meters of vehicle to drag their absolute chutzpah with them.
Yeah, I mean, they've got a lot of balls for designing it like that. I mean, it is... Well,
I don't think it's balls, it's naivety.
Well, it's a visual explosion. I'm not sure if it's really a one
to style.
In a good way, though.
Commitment to what style?
Commitment to
this is a question.
Style.
But I would say that it just does something. I'm not sure if it does something.
Makes me vomit.
Speaks to the heart. Speaks to the heart, brother. That's
what dear. Controversial car.
Join me in the country club, Mark, watching low-grade pornography, as Elliot would say. I love it. All right, so that does mean that we have... oh, no, I'm sorry, it's my turn.
Yeah,
so we have a vote for the EHS9, which I can't vote for, and then we have a vote for the HiPhi over the EHS9. So I have to choose between the HiPhi and the ES8. Now, some would say that my choice here is just to act as a spoiler so that the Neo, or rather the HiPhi doesn't win in two categories. But I genuinely like the interior of the ES8, and I'm going to explain why. I think the HiPhi does have great material quality. I think that the screen and the UI and everything is good. One of the great things about the HiPhi interior that Mark, I didn't hear you mention was because of those crazy doors, the ingress and egress of that car is better than any vehicle I've ever been in.
To the second row, yes.
No, the first row as well, because they have the doors open 90 degrees. They open fully open. And so getting in and out of that
I'm meaning more is the third row.
Sure.
The third row store.
Third row is a no-go. I mean, the third row of the EHS9 is legitimately quite good. You do not have a lot of features and stuff, but there's actual light coming into it, which the HiPhi X doesn't have. But I like NIO interiors. So the EC6, I love that transmission knob. As you guys can see, the viewers can see on the channel, those of you who haven't seen any video, other footage of it, it's that little thing on the left side of the center console, below the screen, next to the little knob that you use for volume. Also awesome because it has a physical knob for volume, huge points, and for drive modes and stuff. But it's just such a great little intuitive thing. You just drop your hand, flick it forward, flick it back. Park is on the side on the side there. You can hit with your thumb. I really do like it. I also think that the Napa leather is very nice. Nomi, I can give whatever. She can come or go. I don't really care about Nomi.
Seems to be optional, actually. Anyway,
it is optional. But I will say I described the EC6 as the most luxurious. What is it called? EV I've ever driven at the time. And I still think that's true, because luxury is not just about material qualities and stuff. That's obviously important. It's about design and ergonomics. And I think the ES8 just the NIO interiors in general. So that does mean that this category is a wash. However, we have one vote for each contestant, which I think speaks to our strengths as automotive reviewers in picking contestants. So a small round of applause for each of us. But that does bring us to our next category, which is performance. So this is one of the objective categories along with range. And so that means we're basically just going to go by the raw numbers. Who's got the most power and torque, range. Again, we'll get into the batteries and packs and stuff a little bit later. But Elliot, why don't you start with your contestant?
So the ES8 has a 0 to 100 kilometer an hour of 4.9 seconds, 725 Newton meters of torque.
Mm-hmm.
Power?
Mm-hmm.
What horsepower?
Well, kilowatts.
Kilowatts or horsepowers, whatever.
I didn't write that down.
What? This guy's torque obsessed. I think yours is around 400.
He's a talker.
Well, it's the 0 to 100 time that matters, right? So
it's true. It's true. So we're all of these guys are dual motor. Mark, we'll get to that. You actually have a single motor option on yours. I think you may be the only one here that has a single motor option. No? Does the HiPhi X? They have a lower power option. Is that one not single motor? So. Is it dual motor? Well, why don't you start by telling us a bit about the performance of the HiPhi X?
Okay, 440 kilowatts. That's 590 horsepower, split equally between a front and rear motor. 820 Newton meters. 3.9 seconds, 0 to 100, 0 to 62 miles per hour. Top speed at 200 kilometers an hour, which is 124 miles per hour. You want to know the weight?
Yes. Hold on.
I've got my weight.
2,580 kilos.
Whoa. I'm
heavy.
2,425.
Well, remember, it's four-wheel steering. I think the only one of the three that's got four-wheel steering.
I have four-wheel steering as well. I believe I.
Is there an option for four-wheel steering on Hongqi?
I believe that has rear-wheel steering. Maybe I can confirm that.
I don't think it does as standard. There might be an option for it.
You said yours was 2,000 what again?
Who?
Yours was how much? How many kilos, Mark?
Mine?
Yeah.
2,580.
What a lightweight.
So it's 2.5 tons.
What a lightweight. Let's talk about the EHS9, all right? 0 to 100 kilometers per hour, 5 seconds, whatever.
Whoa.
Eventually.
Is that the slowest one there?
What? Listen, it's not just about what's on paper. Even though I said this is subjective, it's not.
Aerodynamics of a brick, yeah.
Hey, a brick with a lot of road.
An electric brick, yeah.
An electric brick, yeah. So it comes with the two power level options, 320 or 405 kilowatts. which is like 400 horsepower and 550 horsepower, I believe. In yours makes no difference. And then torque-wise, the larger or the more powerful version has 750 newton meters. Because Elliot's yours isn't the Mark's is 850, right?
Yeah, Mark's is the
820 for newton meters.
Exaggerate. But what I want to say, and why I think that the EHS9 is deserves consideration for the performance category, even though it doesn't necessarily have the raw numbers. So I think we guys keep this in mind. Mark, you've done this as well. There is something, I love that Hongqi stuck to a theme, and that theme is old school luxury, because when you hit the accelerator on an EHS9, it is like the smashing the throttle on a boat, because it just goes and the prow, if you will, of this beautiful vessel rises in such a way as to make you feel like some sort of king-like figure who has just commanded the power to come forth. It is so dramatic. It is so satisfying. I think
that's due to their weight distribution.
Listen, it's not about weight distribution. It's about style and pizzazz.
Doesn't have that
drama. Also, by the way,
nice.
it weighs 2,000. The heaviest version weighs 2,650 kilos.
And it does
the heaviest and the slowest.
Well, you say that
like
it's
that's why
like,
it's the slowest.
I'm about to say, you say that like it's counterintuitive. How is it all heavy and also slow?
True.
So again, sticking to the theme, but it does have air. All these cars have air suspension. I believe at least available with air suspension.
Yes.
And they all ride very comfortably. I think the EHS9. We can talk a bit about, because we've basically driven all the cars that are present, or we can talk about the ones we've driven. Of the three, again, the EHS9, it's definitely old school luxury, which means that going through turns, does she wallow a bit? Yes. But again, it lets you feel the sense of occasion when you really throw it in there. These other cars, they're so flat. I don't want to drive a 911 GT3 when I have an SUV. I want something that gives me a sense of just wee whenever I turn around a corner.
You want that American 80s Cadillac feel when you're going to your country club, don't you? Wallowing around the corner like this.
Yes.
And you want to do it slowly.
I want my golf buddies to be ill by the time we get to the country club to watch sports.
We'll take the HiPhi then.
Is that how you actually win at golf then?
Yeah, that's exactly right. I will make sure that the best golf player, the best person on my team who I'm playing against, is going to be sitting in the backseat, where you get the most physics, the worst of the physics from that car, and that they're ill, so they can again watch sports in a smoke-filled room. But I do love the way the EHS9 accelerates. I do find it to have a beautiful sense of occasion. But of course, as I said before, even though the EHS9 is the winner in the hearts of the people, we are objectively here. I think we have to give the win to Mark, because he's got the most power, the fastest 0 to 100. The HiPhi X is legit crazy fast. In my review,
it's scary.
Yeah, it's like spin the tires in sport mode. One of the things I actually liked about it, and what I found fun, was it was more dramatic than you would expect, in that there really was some scrambling for traction when you take off in sport mode, just like full throttle launch, which is pretty fun. But yes, got to give the win to Mark there for that objective category. Another category that is objective is going to be our conversation about range. Now, I've done Elliot a favor by including this photo to make sure he remembers, not that he was going to forget, the thing that the NIO ES8 has in its favor.
Yeah, so I mean, range, the whole range thing with the NIO ES8 is obviously slightly different from you guys, because we have both battery swapping and NIO power. So range is...
What is NIO power, for those that don't know?
A NIO power is you get stuck somewhere, you need a charge, you ring NIO up, and they come out with a van with a massive battery in the back.
And or a generator. Have they gotten rid of all the generators?
I haven't seen one recently, so okay. I think maybe.
It used to be a diesel generator.
Correct.
In the back of a van.
And I think for like the long distance, like they did a trip to Tibet, maybe they used that one there. I'm not sure. They must have, right? Because there's no other way. But the the interesting thing on the NIO website is they say focus on the ride, not the range. So I like that. I like that sentence. So yeah, range. We have, we've got different battery packs. The most common are 70 kilowatt hour and the 100 kilowatt hour. The 100 kilowatt hour pack, we get 580 kilometers of range, which is not bad. It's not a huge amount.
Well,
and I
for
think
the size of car, it's good.
Yeah, and that's NEDC range. And I think with the smaller pack, it's 400 kilometers of range, 70 kilowatt hours, 400, 430. So yeah, like I said, focused on the ride, not the range, guys.
Focus on the ride and not the range. So the ES8 is bringing some not altogether impressive numbers to that game, but obviously battery swapping is a pretty big advantage. Mark, talk to us about the HiPhi X.
Yeah, so it's got a slightly smaller battery than the ES8. So it's 97 kilowatt hour. And on that, it does 550 kilometers, which is 342 miles NEDC. Electricity consumption is 17.8 kilowatt hours per 100 kilometers.
That's the one for the more powerful version. Is that the lowest one available?
No, there is only one power version for the HiPhi X, as far as I know.
Yeah, it's different seat configurations, right?
There's different seat configurations.
So,
you've got a 6-seater or a 4-seater. But there's actually only three. There's only three versions of the HiPhi X. Two of them are 6-seater, and there's the one that's the 4-seater. So it's just to do with equipment, as far as I know. It's got nothing to do with motors.
Well, I'm looking at it right now, and this is new. This is brand new, so I don't blame you for knowing this. But there is now a 220 kilowatt entry level motor entry level version, 410 newton meters of torque. That version offers, 630 kilometers of range.
How much is that? Because I looked on AutoHome earlier today to get some of this information.
It's 570,000 RMB, and then of course the 6-seater version.
I thought that was the second-hand one from what I was reading.
Oh no! These are
because they were talking about second-hand cars from about 570,000 on AutoHome.
To be fair, I believe that to Mark's credit, this is all in Chinese. But this is the entry level one. This is brand new. This came out in fact, it came out in March of 2022.
Okay.
And that one has, let me double check the battery capacity just so we're clear on that.
Should be the same, 97 kilowatt hours, I'm sure.
Yeah. I believe that to be the case.
I very much doubt they've made a different battery pack, but
that's true. We'll go with that. But so 630. You know what? Let's talk a little bit about the EHS9, because it just so happens that the EHS9 for 2022 is available with a new, beautiful 120 kilowatt hour pack that delivers.
It needs
it. This isn't a contest about kilowatt hours per 100 kilometers, though it should be. Those numbers aren't available for two of our contestants, as far as I can find, the ES8 and the EHS9. I imagine that Hongqi would do their best to cover those up. But what we do
calculate it. That's where mine came from.
Yours didn't come from the webs from AutoHome, because it's right there on AutoHome as well. So the 120 kilowatt hour battery, depending on the power level you choose, either the lower power level 320 kilowatts or the higher power level 405 kilowatts, it's 660 or 690 kilometers of NEDC range. When we tested it, there was only the 84 and the 99 kilowatt hour pack, but now it is available with this beefy 120. In fact, I think only the 120 is available for 2022 models.
Can you buy it now? Can you buy it now?
Can you buy the vehicle at this moment?
The 120 kilometer battery, because if you can't, then I'm going to add in my 150 kilowatt hour battery.
Hold on.
I don't know if that's going to be available for the ES8, is it? Oh, I suppose it must be, because
they're
it was available
for
starting November. It debuted November of 2021.
Okay.
So thank God, I was a little nervous about that for a second. But I also want to point out, and this is just a cool design feature that some of you will know from watching our review, that awesome chrome sail panel or whatever you want to call it on the C pillar of the EHS9 that I think is actually quite elegant. It is also acts as a charge indicator. So when you plug the car in, the charge indicator, there's 10 little strips, of course, and so it indicates your power level charge in 10% increments. And it's not that easy to see in full daylight, but I do think it's a cool, subtle design element, and huge credit.
Well, a few subtle things about the car.
Yes. Well, see, you get both. You get subtlety and you get extreme design presence. So that's what. But if you go just by the stated ranges, I think I win. 690 kilometers. Anybody beat 690 kilometers?
No.
Now, I would say if there's a second and third place, second place has to go to that's technically, according to the numbers, the HiPhi would be second, right? But I will give strong credit, not the win, of course, strong credit to the ES8, of course, and the NIO models, because they have battery swapping. So that is a strong consideration for buyers. But speaking of buyers, what matters the most is the holistic package. What matters the most as we come to the conclusion of the video is the value represented by these cars. Now, Elliot, why don't you start by telling us, what do you think is the value proposition for your car? Start with, for example, what's the price range for the ES8?
Well, the price is complicated because you can go for, buying the battery or not buying the battery. So we'll start at, if you don't buy the battery, the cheapest ES8 you can get is 408,000 RMB. But you've got to rent a battery for 980 RMB per month.
I'm going to convert that really quick to USD. Go on.
If you go with the 100 kilowatt hour battery, you have to add obviously about 58,000 RMB, I think. And the top of the range one is 568,000 RMB. So only 10,000 RMB less than the lowest HiPhi model. So that's why they've probably done that price. So
that's including the battery, is it?
That's including battery, yeah. So I think that, with NIO, you're not just buying the car, but you're buying the service, you're buying the battery swapping, you're buying the support, you've got this whole package of things that you get with the car. So although it might not be the fastest, the biggest, whatever, that you've got the support there if you're buying it new. If you're buying it secondhand, you don't. And I think that the company does a lot to take care of its owners. So I do think that what you get for your money, especially with that battery swapping, is probably, in my eyes, it'd be the winner out of these three.
Okay, Mark, tell us, what do you think is really quickly, I did the calculations. That's about a little over $62,000 all the way up to about $85,000 from the cheapest to the most expensive ES8. Mark, what do you think about the HiPhi X? Where's the value proposition in the HiPhi X?
Well, price range. Sorry, what did you say with the two-wheel drive was? Was it 570,000?
570,000 RMB, which is almost the exact same.
Is that rear-wheel drive, by the way?
I believe that to be the case. Let me double check
that would make sense anyway. Yeah, so with the four-wheel drive versions, start at 620,000, and you've got, with the six-seater, you've got either a 620,000 or a 680,000 version. And then if you really want to go the whole hog, you go for the four seats, and that is a eye-watering rather, 800,000.
Which is the equivalent of, just for the record, $120,000.
Yeah,
$120,000.
Very, very expensive.
Yes.
But
your starting price, by the way, your 570,000 RMB is almost the exact same as the top price for the. So it's almost the exact same price as the most expensive ES8.
So obviously with the car, you get something that is pretty much unlike anything else on the road, and in a very modern way, not like the EHS9, which, yes, it's certainly got presence. I'm not denying that. But I would say with the HiPhi X, it's a head turner in a good way.
I don't like the shade you're throwing, indicating somehow that the EH9 is a head turner in a bad way. I'm just going to let that slide.
The EHS9 turns heads, but It's
The
more
wrong
like
heads.
it's something that's hit you in the face. That's why you're turning your head.
That's what I'm saying. It's a hammer.
Yeah.
Bludgeon your opponents, and your opponents are everyone else.
Yeah.
In the world. Bludgeon them.
Bludgeoned your eyes.
So EHS9. Okay. Prices range from about $89,000 to $120,000. Let me double check because I want to make sure I'm correct on that. Yes, actually $89,000 to $117,000. So topping out slightly under the HiPhi X. I do want to say that the EHS9 comes in not two variants, 4 and 6 seater, but 4, 6, and 7 seater. The one we tested, I believe, was a 7 seater, whereas the HiPhi X only 4 and 6, and the ES8 only 6 and 6 and 7. Yes.
Yeah.
So utilitarian, please come on. But you're getting a lot of battery for that. You're getting a lot of range. You're getting and you just can't overstate the amount of style. I will also say that the entry level EHS9 has 320 kilowatts. It's a full 100 kilowatts more power than the entry level HiPhi X, which is the 220 kilowatt single motor, which by the way is rear. It's rear motor, single rear motor. So I think there is some value to be found there. But we do need to, kind of have a vote. Let me really quickly, so we know what's at stake here. Let's tally up the votes. So exterior styling went, I think, to the HiPhi X, right?
Yes, HiPhi X.
Interior styling, a well-deserved win for the it was for the
It was
Neo.
a draw.
It was a draw, yeah. So
Yeah, it was a draw.
1 point for the HiPhi X. Performance went to the HiPhi X, so that's 2 points for the HiPhi X, and then range, your man over here of the EHS9. So that's 2 points for the HiPhi X, 1 point for the EHS9, and unfortunately, so far, no points for Elliot and his ES8. But the value, let's have a vote really quickly. Let's try to decide on this. Will there be a tie, or will the HiPhi X take the win? Elliot, what would you say of the 3 competitors, other than your own, of course, of the HiPhi X and the EHS9? Which do you think represents the best value?
Oh gosh, I wish I could pick the Neo here because it would be the best value for me. How do I decide the best value?
What do you
I
think
would go
most
with
for your money? And I think the technical term is most grill for your money.
I don't want grill for my money. I don't know. That's a really hard
He's
one.
not buying a steak.
I think I don't want an ugly car. It's just not good value with all those trashy materials on the inside.
Sounds like a vote for the EHS9.
HiPhi.
All right.
Although the technology is too complicated for its own good.
Okay, 1 vote for the HiPhi. Mark, EHS9 or ES8 value? What do you think?
Definitely the Neo. I think the Hongqi is overpriced for what it is. Actually, I just don't see that the prices represent the quality of materials. I can understand completely why somebody would buy a Hongqi.
Thank you.
It's not necessarily a bad car by any means, but I feel that with both the HiPhi X and the Neo, the quality of the materials are so much better, and they seem to be a lot better thought out cars. The user interface with the Hongqi is one of the worst I have ever seen or ever tried to use. It is just masses of text. You have columns and columns of text. You have to choose this one, then choose that one, then choose that one. It's like, who really thought out such a crazy system? I have no idea.
I'd love to tell you you're wrong, but you're not. It is god awful UI. Yeah, it's bad. It took me forever to find out where the regenerative braking settings were buried in the menu, but you don't need those going to the golf course. That's all I'm going to say. Well, okay, so we got a vote for the Neo. We got a vote for so we 2 votes for the Neo. And actually, you know what, guys? I'm going to be honest. I'm going to vote for the Neo because I think that for the top range model, you get what really puts me over the top, really, because I've said I love the interior, the exterior styling. It's I can take it or leave it in terms of it's not amazing for me, but it's also not hard on the eyes. But it's the NIO service. It's also the NIO battery swapping and stuff that's available. So I gotta go with NIO. So that's one for NIO, which means one for the EHS9, one for NIO, and 2 for the HiPhi X. So our winner for today's video is none other than Mark's vehicle, the HiPhi X. This is somewhat of a non-surprise because I'm pretty sure that I don't know if I mentioned it specifically at the end of the EHS9 review that I did, but I think I said, like, this is not the car that I would buy in this price category. But we couldn't have 2 people representing the HiPhi X. So I was the EHS9, and I was proud to do it.
Well, as I said, I could understand completely why somebody would buy an EHS9. It's not a terrible car by any means.
No.
I just feel that the HiPhi X is better.
I really have a soft spot for both of them, and I'm happy to see either of them on the road. ES8 I'm not as happy to see on the road simply because I see them all the time. They're not as exciting. But that is going to do it for today's video. Thank you very much to both of my guests, Mark and Elliot, for joining me. This video, our last video where we discussed the world's simplest and cheapest cars, was about 47 minutes, and we somehow managed in just around 55 minutes to discuss some of the world's most complex and expensive EVs on the other end of the spectrum. So I think we were highly effective today, boys. Good job. Thank you for joining me. Thank you very much also to our audience, of course. Be sure to comment below. Which one do you guys prefer? EHS9, HiPhi X, ES8, which one do you think is the best on all the categories that we have mentioned? We would really love to hear your thoughts. We also love to hear your thoughts on other debates, other topics that we can discuss. We do rely on you in the comments to give us ideas, and we really appreciate your input. Be sure to check these guys out on their various platforms. Both of them are on Twitter. Elliot, of course, on YouTube, and then Mark at his website. Also, check us out, Wheelsboy, in our Instagram and Facebook. We appreciate you giving us a subscribe or a follow. Thank you very much for watching. We will see you in our next video.